Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Watch It Bro podcast. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Marshall.
And it was definitely Mikhail's Navy that I was remembering.
I was gonna ask, hey, did you have an epiphany after watching this? Like, oh man, this was the one I was actually thinking of. But you were thinking of McHale's Navy?
It was Mikhail's Navy. I watched this and I'm like, nope, definitely was not the movie I was thinking of.
Do you remember this movie at all?
Vaguely,
Really?
yes.
Okay.
By the way, that movie is down Periscope. Today we are reviewing it down Periscope.
Yes, yes. And I think I said it before on another podcast previous, and I talked about it with Jeff briefly. That sometimes there's memories, I guess, that in my mind we were both having fun together, but you were just there because you were too young.
Yeah. Yeah, does Jeff has some of those memories with Evan too?
Probably.
Oh, I'm sure, because there's a bigger age gap between them than there is us, isn't there?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Yeah, but yeah, down Periscope. I do have vague memories of this movie. I don't remember it a lot. I don't think I watched it as much as you did.
Okay.
But yeah, to settle that, it was definitely Mikhail's Navy. I was right that we rented that one time for one weekend, and I watched it a lot more than you did. And I enjoyed it apparently a lot more than you did.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That's okay. It happens.
It does happen. Do you want to get into the specs, or do you want to keep
No,
going?
let's get into this. Let's get into the specs now.
I've got fun facts already.
Awesome. So yeah, this was down Periscope. It was directed by David S. Ward. The story was by Hugh Wilson. It is starring the great Kelsey Grammer,
Yes, it is.
Lauren Holly, who you might know from Dumb and Dumber,
Uh-huh.
Rob Schneider, who, let's face it, everyone knows who Rob Schneider is.
Yes.
It's got Harry Dean Stanton, who was Toot in The Green Mile. A
Okay.
hysterical character in The Green Mile. It's got the great Bruce Dern, who was
Yes.
in Support Your Local Sheriff, is where I know him best from.
Joe
But he's
Danby.
Joe Danby. But he's been all over, huge career, and he is the father of Laura Dern from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
It also has William H. Macy, who was also in the Jurassic Park trilogy,
Yep. Jurassic Park 3.
and the late great Rip Torn.
Yeah. From such movies as Men in Black.
That's right, he was in Men in Black. that his legacy is boiled down to this and Men in Black, apparently.
No, he's also in Dodgeball.
No, don't do that to him.
That was a good movie.
Okay.
Don't worry, you'll see.
Oh no. This movie was released March 1st, 1996.
Yes, the year before McHale's Navy. And here's my fun fact: they offered Kelsey Grammer's role in this, Tom Dodge, to Tom Arnold first.
Really?
Yes, and Tom Arnold's like, I turned it down, and he did a much better job than I would have done.
Yeah,
And I gotta say, with McHale's Navy, they proved him right.
he did. He's much. Mikhail was a much better role for Tom Arnold, and I don't think this would have been a good role for Tom Arnold.
No.
Not knocking Tom Arnold, but well, I mean, he even confirmed what I'm saying. So, why don't you take us through the movie, Marshall?
Okay, so down Periscope, we started out with the 20th Century Fox logo and some opening credits before going into a montage of a submarine yard, submarines, naval yard, just getting us into the Navy feel. We are quickly put into a room of Navy heads, admirals, and higher ups, and they're talking about our lead character, Thomas Dodge, or Tom Dodge, and this is the role Kelsey Grammer plays.
Yes, he does.
It looked like you wanted to say something, so I
No,
stopped.
I felt like you stopped talking, so I felt like I needed to interject something. So I agreed with you that the main character in this is in fact Kelsey Grammer.
Fantastic. In this group, we have Admiral Winslow, who's played by Rip Torn. We have Admiral Graham, who is played by Bruce Dean.
Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern, yes, Bruce Dern. And we kind of go back and forth between them talking about Dodge, and whether or not he's a good candidate to be a sub commander. He's in the captain's program, which means he's being trained up for this. They talked about a mishap he had where Mermanic brush. He rubbed up against an enemy sub briefly, and it was a big deal. But we go from them talking about Dodge to him standing on the deck of a submarine with a couple other Navy guys. They've got binoculars. They're saying, "Okay, just a little bit more this way. Take your let's go this way." And he's like, "Okay, let's take the shot." And it pans out, and he's golfing uh, off the uh, off the sub, and long drive gets it on the fairway.
He gets it on the green.
He does get it on the green. Not a big golf guy, but yes, he gets it on the green. He's close to the hole, and then we get to see William H Macy. Captain Knox is at the moment his mentor, basically. Um, we get a couple comments from Admiral Graham about Dodge, that he's unfit, that he's not the best captain. We put a lot of money into him, but he's still not getting it. And he even heard rumors that one night he got drunk and got a tattoo of "Welcome aboard" on his
No,
the move that you just made.
he got drunk and got a very
He got "Welcome aboard" tattooed on his on his.
he got a very inappropriate tattoo.
But yes, the phrase "Welcome aboard" comes back later.
They call it back a couple of times.
Uh-huh. is is there a family friendly way of saying that?
There's not.
So it's been a while since I've seen this movie, and there's a few things that I'd forgotten. The
That
tattoo
was
was
one of
one of
them.
them. Yes,
Yeah.
the tattoo is one of them. And he does drop an F bomb within the first.
The only one that they're allowed because PG-13
Right,
only you only get one.
right, and I didn't remember that at all either. But
I
like I said,
didn't either, and it was right out the gate, and me and Rachel were like, "Oh, no."
yeah, I'm like, oh, this isn't an R, is it? I picked up my movie. I'm like, oh no, it's PG-13. That's
Yeah.
their one. So don't say "Welcome aboard."
He had and he got "Welcome aboard" tattooed somewhere.
Yes, he got "Welcome aboard" tattooed somewhere. Anyway, Knox comes out, is on the submarine. He's yelling at Dodge like, "What are you doing? You can't be doing this. This is unbecoming of a naval officer. You're acting inappropriately. Come on down here. I got to fill out this report." And Dodge looks at the report like, "Yeah, this is a career killer. What are you doing to me?" He's like, You're not getting it. You're a loose cannon, and you can't be that way. This is the Navy." But they he's got a report that he looks at. He's like, "Well, it doesn't really matter what I think. You have been called to report to Norfolk to take command of your own submarine." And Dodge's like, "That's not funny." And, and Captain Knox like, "No, it's not. That's why they decoded it twice." But um, it sounds like that at this point, Dodge is gonna the captain's program's working out. Whatever happened at the higher up conference went his way. He's gonna get us up. So we see him pulling up in a car. He gets out. He's like, "Oh man, I hope they have a turquoise one."
Yeah, he likes turquoise for some reason.
That's a good sea color.
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue that one.
Yep. But we are quickly put on a smaller boat with Admiral Graham, and Admiral Graham is like, "Okay, here is your sub," and he points over to a basically a rust bucket.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
well,
1958 diesel submarine from World War II.
yeah, it's old, and it's been
It
sitting
is
there
old.
f it was been decommissioned for a long time, and now it's getting recommissioned.
Correct. He's like, we don't use diesels anymore." It's like, well, they've been recommissioned. There's a lot of things that we will find out shortly that are specifically being stacked against Dodge. Um,
Right.
Fun fact: they used an actual 1943 diesel electric sub, the USS Hanito. But yeah, they for the filming of this they used an actual diesel sub that is currently a museum, or at least it was in 2000.
Okay.
So they get closer, they get towards the dock so he can get a closer look at at his sub. Dodge is upset about the USS Rust-Oleum, and he's like, I was trained on a nuclear sub." And Graham's like, "Well, tomorrow morning you're going to meet your crew that's specifically handpicked by me." And Dodge is kind of incensed, so he goes to see Admiral Winslow, who is the head admiral. This is Rip Torn. He's Winslow's like, "So what do you think of the boat?" He's like, "It is a complete piece of antiquated equipment." Um,
Yes, he catches himself there.
yes, and Winslow's like, "Isn't it great?" He's excited. Winslow's excited about this. Dodge is like, Why? What did I do to be embarrassed by the Navy like this?" And he's like, "No, no, that's not an embarrassment. You have been selected for this special war game mission that we're doing. Russia's been selling off all their diesel submarines like hotcakes to." And he lists off a bunch of countries that are,
Not friends of the United States.
yes, that are not friends of the United States in the 90s. You think about that. Uh,
I think we'll leave it at that.
Yep, and breaks it down that the higher ups in the Navy don't think a rogue diesel sub would be a threat to their new nuclear forces. But he doesn't seem to think that. He thinks a rogue crazy captain of a diesel sub could be a problem for them. And he wants to test that theory by setting up this little war games and giving a diesel sub to Dodge, someone who's a little bit out there, some to act like a pirate, someone who's got a tattoo of "Welcome aboard." He's like, "Do I got the right guy?" He's like, "Well, incidentally, you do have the right guy." Um, so he lays out the rules. The first thing is he needs to invade Charleston Harbor, get in, send off a flare, and get out. And if he is managed to get in and out of Charleston Harbor without getting caught, his next target is to go to Norfolk and make an attack there, a successful attack there, which is where he's at now. As well as at this point, Dodge is like, "Okay, but if I do this and win, I want my own command of a nuclear sub." And Winslow's like, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you two live torpedoes and put a dummy ship out here in the Norfolk Harbor. And if that blows up, then we'll talk about you getting a command of another ship. I can't promise anything." He's like, "Fair enough." He takes him up on the offer, and we move on to the next scene. You doing okay?
Yep.
Cutting you off? Anything to say?
Nope, you're covering it. We're good to go. I have some stuff coming up in the next few scenes, but
Okay. It's the next morning. It is time to meet the crew. He's walking down the line as they're all standing there. He's like, "Nice pants, lose the cigar. You need to burn that shirt." He's like, "Oh, geez, crew from heck."
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a classic trope from the '90s of a ragtag pieced together group of
Underdogs.
underachievers are
Yep.
all grouped together to overcome adversity and save the day. I
So
mean, Mighty Ducks.
yeah,
That's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. But there's more.
yeah, yeah. So the first person we meet is the XO, the officer of the Stingray, Marty Pascal, and this is Rob Schneider, who is in prime Rob Schneider form.
He is. He absolutely kills the role.
Yes, he is funny. He is unlikable. He does a great job of being this character.
He does, and he's got a few great quotes
He does.
about the sub.
He does. Do you want to tell us some of the quotes? Because I
I
got some
just wr-
written down.
I
He's
wrote
like,
down my favorite one.
he's like, "Sir, tell me what you think of the sub." What does he say?
Yes, and he's like, "Sir, I feel like I need a tetanus shot just looking at it. I feel like the only thing holding it together are the bird droppings."
Yes.
Which that was my favorite one. Was the bird droppings one?
Yeah. No. Those are some. I thought were some great lines.
They were
And very
fantastic
very inventive.
and fantastically delivered.
Yes. It is playing up the boat is not the best shape.
No,
Um,
it's yeah.
One thing I didn't mention, but when he was talking with Graham was showing in the boat and his crew, he's like, "Is the crew also from World War II?" And he's like, "No, no, I handpicked them myself." That's
Yes.
but so Marty's there. They're calling up these like, well, let's see who this crew is and get them on here. And we get to meet some of the guys. One of the first guy we meet is goes by Spots. His name is Sylvesterston,
Okay.
but he goes by
And
huh?
at points during the movie, I thought for a second that he was a very young Rob Riggle.
I'm not sure who Rob Riggle is.
Really?
Yes.
Google him real quick.
Okay.
Because I've seen him in tons of things, but I can't pinpoint something that you might have seen him in. And I'm sure if you see his face, you're like, oh yeah,
Oh,
see,
yeah, Gil Thorpe.
yeah. So I think he looked like if him and Bruce Dern had a kid, that would be
Okay.
Spot. Just with his mannerisms and the way he talks, like throughout the film, it was more and more like, gosh, he is like a combo of those two, like a young Bruce Dern mixed with Rob Riggle. Looks just
Yeah.
like it.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. But yes, his name's Spots. He's a bit of a gambler. He doesn't have his shoes, and
Because he
Dodge is like,
lost them.
okay, yeah, he lost them on bet. He's like, okay, get in the. It's like you ever been on a sure thing, and then a horse gets a cramp.
Which explains the luck of this man.
Yes. He's like, okay, get on the boat. And then we meet Sonar, a repeat actor for the podcast. Harlan
Yeah.
Williams returns.
Yes, he does. And I was happy to see him.
Yes, he does a fantastic job in this movie as well.
He does.
Um, he his name is Sonar. He's got great hearing. As he's walking up onto the boat, Dodge is like, "Let me guess, he can't hear worth a pile of beans, right? He's deaf or something." And and Rob Schneider character Marty's like, "No, no, no, he's got really good hearing. You got to watch what you say around him." His last commander thought he was a security risk, and from up on the back of the boat, good 30 feet away, he's like, "Well, I don't hear everything, but I'm very trustworthy."
Yes, and they were whispering, and he is far away. I'd say he's closer to 50 feet away,
Yeah, yeah, they're whispering low, and he's just way he's way up there. At this
which
point,
is what you want in a sonar guy.
yeah, yeah. At this point, we see two MPs, military police, or the naval police guys, bringing up a rough neck looking guy in a mesh shirt. Um,
Who, as soon as I saw this guy, I was like, that could have been Ben Stiller, and we will find out if that should have been Ben Stiller.
and this is Stepanik. Um, and the first thing he says when he gets up to Dodge is to sit on it. And Marty's like, "You can't tell him to do that. You're gonna get court-martialed. You're gonna get out of here." Dodge is grabbing him. He's like, "Down, heel, sit, sit. Don't shut up."
Yeah, basically, yeah.
uh, Stepanik is quoting the military codes like, "Per what I said, you gotta throw me in the brig for like 4 months, so I should get out of here, right?" He's like, "No, no, I like a challenge. Get on the boat." He's like, "Oh, you'll be kicking me off in no time." He's like, "Well, if I kick you off, it's gonna be in the middle of the Atlantic, so."
Yep.
He gets on the boat. He's like, "Man, I love this job. Let's go. Who's next?" Uh, and then we get a cut to where we start meeting some of the people on the boat. It's not the complete lineup, get everybody on, but we meet Buckman, who's a larger fellow. We find out he's the cook in a little bit. He's introduced to Nitro, and he's like, "Oh, is that a nickname?" He's like, "No, no, that's Nitro, but I'm working on a nickname. What do you think of Mike?"
Yeah, that was that got a chuckle for me and Rachel.
But we'll find out that Nitro's the electrician on the boat, and then we also get to meet a ball player named Jackson. He plays ball for the Navy team, and Spots
He's
is
not
like, "Hey,
good.
no, no, he's not good." Spots is like, "Hey, I know you. You choked, and I lost a bunch of money because of you." And he's like, "They didn't choke; they were all over me." And they're just going at it a little bit. Um, um, so yeah, they're going at it, and we cut to Dodge checking out his bunk area, little captain's quarters, and Marty comes in, and he's like, um, "There's maybe a problem. I've got Lieutenant Lake here, um, who is a woman on a submarine." He's like, "Well, this is." Dodge is like, "Oh, this is that's great. The boys didn't have to get me a strip. This is fine." And she's like, "No, no, I'm the lieutenant. I'm your dive officer." He's like, "But they don't allow women on the submarine." It's like, "Well, Admiral Graham is running a test trial about this, and I'm it." Another new trial run thing for Dodge and his crew, basically. So, he takes her down to introduce her to the rest of the crew. There's some
We get a scene that did not age well at all and is kinda horrific.
yeah, yeah,
We'll just kinda leave it at that.
that's a good way to do it. And then we get into a, boat cleanup montage
Yes, we do.
where
Which
everybody's yes. What
oh,
were you gonna
which
say?
as soon as we saw the sub, Rachel was like, "What do you wanna bet that rundown sub is, like looks almost brand new by the end of the movie?" And then the montage happened, and she goes, "What did I tell you?"
It's not even by the end of the movie.
Right. Well, they had to do something.
Yeah, they put their backs into it. They start working on it. Um,
Which
so
we see them cleaning
yes.
and fixing it all up. Um, at no point do we see them take it into dry dock to get the underside of it.
No, we don't see that.
I'm assuming they do.
They've got to, right?
They would have to, yeah. Especially for how it looks in the water later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be a significant like difference at the water line.
True. Very true. Ugh. Um, During this montage, we see Stepanik sunbathing, trying to get in trouble to get kicked out again. But Dodge isn't really having it. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, you'll do your thing. Hey, Buckman." And Buckman's like, "Uh," and as he turns, he knocks into him with a mop and knocks him into a. I think that's a thing of tar.
It looks like it,
Yeah.
or just really gross because it didn't have the consistency of tar, so it might have been just
No.
water so dirty it looked like tar.
Yeah. Or movie magic. It is tar, but it's black water, so it's not actually tar.
Yeah. I was thinking because if it was tar and it was that consistency, it would be very hot.
True.
So
Very
I
true.
want to say it's very dirty water.
Yeah, that's probably dirty water. This is where we see Nitro is the electrician. He's getting shocked as he's testing wires. Like, oh, that's live.
And I love that he's a trial and error electrician.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
we get a lot of that with him. It's just, is that hot? Oh, yep, it's hot.
he's not afraid to get bit.
Nope.
Yeah,
And
I do not
we,
recommend. I do not recommend touching live wires, or
oh
if you're an
yeah,
electrician
we'll
or
be
thinking
doing
about
that.
becoming an electrician, don't do it that way. It's not safe. Electricity
Uh,
is very dangerous, so go by the book. That's why it's there.
yeah, and we also get a Marty knocked into the water by the fire hose on it.
Yes.
Where sonar bumps in is helping the Spots and Jackson open a hatch so they can put something in there, and he backs up into it as it swings around. It sprays him off the boat. And
it-
what were
and
you gonna say?
he gets launched into the water.
Oh yeah, he does get launched, and
And
if when you see him hit the water, you see there's three other guys in the water near the and they those guys were knocked into the water previously for a shot for the trailer of a bunch of people getting knocked in
okay.
that just wasn't used in the movie, so that's why they were in the water already.
Okay, I was just thinking that it implied that Pascal was not the first one to get hit.
I mean, it technically wasn't.
No, he was, and I think it. Yeah, that's what I thought was like. There's three guys in the water before, so you know that Pascal was not the first guy that he knocked into the water with the hose,
Right.
which I
And
appreciated.
And then we get a little scene that lets us know how Marty is, even more so. Where Buckman's stocking the pantry and he's putting lard up on the shelves, he's putting coffee up on the shelves, and Marty's all stressed out. He's like, "What are you doing? There's lard, there's coffee, it's all next to each other. Why is the lard out here? What do you think we're gonna be using more, the coffee or the lard?" And he's like, "Well, if it's a cold morning, we could go either way." And Marty grabs him and takes him over to the list. Like, this is the stocking list. This is how it should look. This is the regulations. I want it done like this. And Dodge is like, Marty, come here.
Yes, yeah, we missed earlier at the Marty introduction where he Dodge comments that he's quite young to be in his role, and he goes, "Well, you can't put an age on excellence, sir."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's very by the book, takes his job very seriously, takes himself probably too seriously,
Yep,
but
yep,
he's good at what he does. he's very dedicated to
Right.
his career.
Right, and they go to Dodge's office, and he's like, "You need to calm down. You're gonna have yourself an ulcer." He's like, I can't stand this boat. I don't like these people. They're a bunch of jerks. I'm requesting a transfer." He's like, "I understand why you're here because of the tattoo thing, but I don't know why I got picked. Why am I here? I'm a great guy. I shouldn't be on this rust bucket." He's like, "Well, for the time being, your career is in the hands of those jerks out there and this jerk here. So get it together, get in line, and you're not going anywhere."
Yep.
So we get a scene of a bit of a prank on Lieutenant Lake. They hide her clothes and switch them with smaller clothes.
Yes. They are hazing her or what have you, or just pranking her.
Yeah. And when everybody's out for inspection, Dodge is like, "Okay, who did this? Let's find out. This is not okay. Who did this? And if no one messes up, leave is canceled." Okay, leave is canceled. Everybody back on the boat.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. And then
Yeah.
he apologizes to her and says he'll take care of it, and she says, "Thank you, but I can take care of myself."
Yep.
And we don't really they they don't show her taking care of herself or standing up for herself or anything like that. It just kind of is implied.
Yeah. But they never mess with her again.
They don't. No, which is good,
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I get the prank was completely unnecessary. It had nothing to do with there was no plot point behind it. It wasn't like it wasn't like the beginning of her like earning the respect or anything like that. There was no
Yeah. It makes me wonder if a couple things got cut out from her the follow up on that. Uh
maybe. I mean, it would have made sense if that was like the beginning and they had a couple more scenes of her getting messed with just for the fact of like, hey, a woman on board a submarine. It's a new concept they're trying out. She kind of has to earn the respect of the rest of the crew or what have you to kind of have that triumph story.
yeah.
But they did none of that. They were just like, oh, here's a scene. We're going to throw her in some small clothing just for what?
Yeah.
So I didn't like it.
No, that's fair. And at this point too, we see the boat is in immaculate shape now. All the rust is gone. It's us nice and shined up, fresh paint. Um,
Yeah,
it's
they've done
it's
a good
looking
job.
good. It's looking good. It's the morning time. They're doing a dive test. He's like, "Let's kick this pig and go." They start playing anchors away as the boat sails out of the harbor, and we get Dodge talking to Lake about dives. He's like, "Hey, there's a bad current here. You gotta adjust for that." She's like, "I already did that." He's like, "Oh, have you done many dives?" Like, "I've done 300 simulated dives. I've got a record better than you. I looked it up and got a printout if you want to see." He's like, "Of course you do." Um,
Yep.
but he was just trying to prepare for the dives. But she says she got this, and he's like, "Okay, let's prepare for dive." We hear Marty prepare for dive as everybody starts getting prepped, and they start the dive test. This is where we meet Howard for the first time. And fun fact, the actor that played Howard, you have him written down. Can't remember his name off the top of my head.
The guy with the cigar.
Yeah, the old guy.
Harry Dean Stanton from the Green
Yes,
Mile. Toot from the
yes,
Green Mile.
yes. Harry Dean Stanton from the Green Mile, also from Alien. Fun fact is he was actually in World War II.
Is he still alive?
Now,
Yeah.
don't know. You look him up. But he's the type of guy that looks like he did come with the boat.
No, he died September 15th, 2017 at the age of 91.
Okay.
Not a bad run.
No. But yeah, we meet Howard. He's in the engine room. He knows subs. He's the grizzled old guy that knows what they're doing. So he's like, as they start to go down, sub tilts a little bit. Everybody slides. Howard just kind of puts his foot up to brace himself in there because he's used to how subs move.
Oh yeah, he's seasoned, and that's established very early on.
Yeah. But as they're trying to correct, Dodge's like, "Hey, it must be a vent. Check the board, see what's going on." And Lake's like, "The board says all the vents are open." I'm like, "Oh, somebody go look." And we go over the radio. It's like, "Hey, one of the vents is closed." Like, "We'll open it." And they open it. They level off, and they're good to go. He's like, "Okay, let's finish up this dive. Lake, take us to 500 feet."
Yes.
So they start going down. And he looks over and sees Buckman standing in the doorway, like, "Good coffee." That's one of the things on this diesel sub in this area, like, the control room here, you always see people kind of in the doorways looking around, so you have everybody kind of in one spot.
Mhm. Yeah, and as they're diving, what's his
Howard.
Howard, he, puts a string from one end of the sub to the other, and he's telling, some of the guys to watch the string as
Panic.
they dive down, and they'll
Yeah.
see that how much the water pressure actually affects the sub.
Yeah, yeah, he's got it tight up there, he tapes it up, he's like, "Watch, the pressure's gonna crush this like an empty beer can."
Yep,
It's like, "Okay." But as they're going down, you hear creaking and groaning from the sub, you see flexing of the metals. It cut back to the engine room where the string is now hanging low, um, and Harold's like or,
Howard.
Howard. I am bad with names this morning.
It's
Um,
alright. It's early.
how it yeah. Howard's looking at it like, "Hey, look, you don't see that in those fancy nuclear subs, do you?" And Nitro's there. He's like, "No, no, we didn't have clotheslines. We had electric dryers with the window in the front."
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, but it indicating how much pressure is being put on that sub. You can see the give that the metal has. But we're getting down to 400 feet. There's no leaks, and Lake is like, I believe this is crush depth for this model. And Dodge like, well, I need to see what this thing can do. So you nervous to keep going? Because I want us at 500. And then she's like, "No, let's do this. I can do it." And so they start going down further. She's giving the instructions to the two guys at the wheels for air intake and adjustments and like things like that. Going 5 to 6 degrees down bubble, just um, continuing to move that 500 feet down. Um, you're seeing metal and more things of the sub creaking and moving in. You're starting to get some leaks coming through. They're pushing this sub to its breaking point, and then all of a sudden, a bolt shoots out of one of the rivets, just snaps, and the bolt goes flying out and shoots around, breaks the light, and he's like, "Huzzah! We hit 500 feet. We're still good. Let's let's get up." And he gets on the intercom. "Congratulations on the textbook dive, everybody. That was great. We're doing good." So we're getting a look into how he captains.
Yeah,
We cut to Graham talking to Captain Knox. That's William H. Macy, um, Dodge's previous mentor. That his ship, the Orlando, and himself are to protect Charleston Harbor from a threat. He's like, and that's all I can tell you. But based on the captain, I think you'll do fine. Um, so they've gonna sneeze again.
I might.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'm not gonna sneeze now that you mentioned it, though.
Did I make it awkward?
Yeah,
But yeah, Admiral Graham's talking to Knox and letting him know you're going to be part of these war games. Got to defend the harbor. Good to go. The war games have officially started, so they're moving along. We get a couple bits of a look at some of the people on the sub. Nitro is messing with some wires, singing like Sinatra. He gets zapped, and then he starts commentating a ball game, like the radio signal's going through him. Todd just kind of looks at him. He's like, "There's a lot of volts going through that guy."
yeah. He's been shocked one too many times.
Yeah. Um, they're in the engagement zone, and Marty's like, "Hey, shouldn't we be quiet? We're the games are on, right? We're being loud." He's like, Dodge's like, "No, no, we're fine for now." And we get a shot of Knox on his ship, the Orlando, and they're specifically out there looking for him at the moment.
That's a
Um,
nice sub.
it is a nice sub. It's a Los Angeles class nuclear submarine, and they are on the lookout in the quadrant around Charleston Harbor, looking for threats.
Mm. Yep.
Dodge is walking around the control room, talking to people. He gets up to sonar. He's asking if he hears anything. Sonar's like, "Well, Buckman's eating an Oreo in the cafeteria. Suspendic's taking a leak." And he's like, "No, no, no. In the ocean? What's what's going on out there?" He's like, "Oh, just some biological noises you want to hear." He's like, "No, I'm good. Just keep an eye out for anything else." And he's like, what are all these tapes you got up on your console?" He's like, "Oh, these are my whale sounds."
That was a good Harlan Williams impression.
Thank you. He's like, I'm trying to learn to talk to them. We had a nice couple up against the hole a while back. Sometimes I call out and they answer back. He's just really into the
Which
noises.
is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's like, well, that's interesting. And then we cut back to Orlando. Like, we got a ping, sir. Something out that way. It's a little shallow for a sub, but we should go check it out. And Knox like, yeah, let's go see what's going on out there. The sonar hears the ping. He's like, we've been
Ugh,
pinged. No, 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 no. Are we? Nope.
nope.
So the Orlando goes to check out what they think could be a sub or something out there. At this point, Dodge kills the engines to see what they can hear. He's like, let's turn off the engines. Let's see what we can hear out there. And the Orlando loses their signal really quick. Um, and the crew chief, the XO on the Orlando was like, before it went dark, they said it sounded like a diesel engine. And Knox like, well, if it's diesel, it's not a sub. We don't use diesels anymore. Let's ping it and see. I'm like, well, that'll give away per position. He's like, no, no, just one ping. So they send out the sonar ping, and that's when sonar's like, oh, we just got pinged big time. It's the Orlando. I can tell. I know their instruments. They're about 12,000 yards off and closing in because they're coming where the ping was. And at this point, Dodge has a plan. He's like, all right, we're going to go to the surface. Um, and Marty's like, look, I don't think now's the perfect time to surrender. We can try something. We can go deep and run. We can do something. And he's like, noted, Marty. He gets on the intercom talking to Howard in the engineer room. He's like, when we get to the surface, just run on one screw, and send up a drop light with some duct tape as well. Dodge clearly has a plan. He
Yep.
looks over and he's like, Jackson, you look like you should use some fresh air. Jackson's like, no. The Orlando's we cut back to Orlando. They're about 5,000 yards out. And Knox like, let's get up to Periscope depth. I want to see what we're dealing with here. So they start moving. We're out on the subs have decks.
Yeah.
They must, yeah, yeah. They're up on the deck of the sub. The hatch is open. It's a stormy night right now. And Dodge is like, okay, Jackson, I need you to take this lamp, climb up the periscope, and duct tape it to the top. And Jackson's like, you need me to climb up there? He's like, I need an athlete. You're the only one I got. So get going. So Jackson's like, he's got the lad over his shoulder. He starts climbing up there. He slips a little bit, but he's still going. He gets to the top. He starts duct taping this thing, singing "Be all that you can be."
Yeah.
And Dodge's like, "That's the army, sir."
He doesn't stir him, but he says, "That's
No,
the
he's
army."
that's the army, son.
Does he son him?
I don't remember. He just says, "That's the army.
Yeah, okay.
That's the army." Um, but they get in, they turn the lights on, and he's like, "Turn on the running lights." I'm like, "What, the running lights?" He's like, "Just do it." And so they turn on the running lights for the sub, and they start singing "Louie Louie."
Yes, they do. Very well, I might add.
Yeah, yeah, and you look we get over to the Orlando, and their sonar technicians just sitting there, the hand on on his earphones, like, "Sir, you gotta listen to this." He turns on the speaker, and they can hear, "Luau, luau, oh, no," as they're singing, and it's like, "Great, we just tracked down a fishing trawler and a bunch of drunken sailors. Pack it up, we're going home." We're not going home, but we're moving on. This was clearly, not something we shoulda looked into.
Which, yeah, so that also goes to show that in a submarine, you're blind.
Yes. Yes. So from the periscope, what we saw was just the 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 lights. You saw the running lights, like 5 of them along the water edge, and then the one high one, which you'd think is a fishing boat, especially with
Right.
a bunch of people singing. It's up on the surface, and the subs don't have that high light on them. So,
Right. That's why they put the light up there.
yeah, but at this point, sonar's like, "Sir, the Orlando's taking off north fast and loud. They're getting out of here." They're all excited. They pulled it off. And Dodge is like, "All right, let's go to Charleston Harbor and blow something up." And sonar's like, "We're not really gonna blow something up, are we?" It's like, "No, no, we just use flares." And then we cut to Admiral Graham and Admiral Winslow. They're at a little table having dinner or drinks or something, in Charleston Harbor. And Graham's like, "Well, there's nothing going on here, right?" It was like, is this why you brought me out here to gloat that Dodge hasn't shown up yet and the might be losing these war games?" He's like, "No, no, I just."
That's exactly why he brought you out there.
Exactly. But, and then he's like, "Oh, look, fireworks." Admiral Graham is like Winslow's like, "No, that's not fireworks. That's a flare." Graham's like, "What? No." And he gets angry really fast. They move over to the rail where there's one of those coin operated telescope things that you look at, and he's in there. He sees Stingray and he sees Dodge coming up on top. They put in a pirate flag on the railing up there, so it's high and waving. It's like, "Haha, first
Round 1.
round one." And we cut back to in the sub. The Jackson and Spots are bantering and betting on a car. He's like, "Why do you have that picture of the car up there?" He's like, "Oh, because I'm gonna get that when I get signed with the NBA." He's like, and he's like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen. You're a horrible ball player." But he's like, "No, no, no." He's got his plan, and he's like, "You could never afford to be in one of these cars." Like, "I've been in one of those cars. I've been chauffeured in one of those cars. I'll bet you $50." He's like, "Fine, you're on." He's like, "I was tied up and thrown in the trunk when I couldn't pay my bets, so I was driven around and dumped in the desert. Pay me." He's like, "Those cars are nice. Even the trunk has plush carpet." It's like, "That's not the flex that you think it is."
Gonna say that's a weird flex.
It is.
They dropped him off naked in the desert or something.
Yeah. So, we get it pans over to the radio guy who's like, "Sir, Admiral Graham's on the line for you." And you got something about this guy too? Go ahead.
We see Patton Oswalt
Yes. Yes. We hadn't seen
in
him yet.
his film debut.
Yes. His film debut. It panned by him. I'm like, "It's Patton Oswalt." It's like, "Yeah, that is Patton Oswalt."
Yes, it
He's the
is.
radio guy. Also, fun fact: he had to leave the shoot 2 weeks early, due to a writing job he got for Mad TV.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we see him a few times, and then he's just kind of gone.
It's okay.
Could be also why we didn't see him at the beginning when everybody's getting introduced. But he's there right now. He's the radio guy. But yeah, he says Graham's on the phone. Um, so he's like, Nitro's like, "I got him patched through." So he picks up the phone, and Dodge's like, "Uh huh, yeah, Stairway to Heaven, Zeppelin, 1971." It's like, "Hey, we just won the Billy Joel tickets and the WROK T-shirt. Can you please patch me through to Graham now?"
That was funny.
Yeah, yeah, and Graham's like, "Sorry," and Nitro's like, "Sorry about that." He grabs a wire, grabs another wire. He's like, "Okay, there you go. You can."
Yeah, none of the wires are long enough for any kind of communication.
Right.
So,
He's trying to connect him. He's like, "Oh, just grab these two wires." Like,
yeah, so anytime they need anything, Mike has to, like, lick his fingers and touch 2 wires. Hey, he was going for a nickname, and I liked Mike.
that's fair.
But yeah, kinda
Uh,
sucks for him.
yeah, yeah. So, but Graham's on the radio on the phone talking to him. He's like, "Okay, for the remainder of this exercise, you're only to stay in these two quadrants, A3 and B3." And he's like, "But that cuts the area in half of where we can go." And he's like, "Well, those are the new rules. And remember, Dodge, it's just a game. This is all in fun. So, but these are your new rules. So stick to it." So, we cut to Marty, who's harassing Buckman again. And at this point, it's for good reason. He's like, "Buckman, I found a fingernail in my food yesterday. It was a Band-Aid." He's like, "Sorry, sir, the Band-Aid was holding the fingernail on."
Well, and when the scene first appears, you see him, he's smoking a cigar, and he ashes his cigar in the spaghetti sauce.
Yes, Buckman is is not the cleanest cook.
Well, how are those guys not all sick?
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, Pascal is upset,
Yeah, he's
right?
upset. He's like, "Look at this kitchen. Look at this. There's roaches in the flour. There's cigar ashes in the spaghetti sauce. I mean, this cans from this can's been on this boat since Korea. It says it expired in '66." And Buckman sticks his finger in. He's like, "It still tastes like cream corn." He's like, "Oh, that's nice. It's deviled ham." It's
Yeah, he
like,
goes, "Oh, well, then that's a problem."
yeah, I was like, "Oh, that." But while Marty's looking at all the stuff, Buckman gets the can of the kitchen spray and sprays the floor and sprays the handrails of the ladder coming out of the kitchen. And Marty's like, "I've got my eye on you." And he starts to leave and he slips. He just and biffs it on the ground hard. He's like, and he gets up holding his back and looks at Buckman. He's like, "Nobody saw that." He's like, "Oh, I didn't."
Yep. Nope. Nope. You're good.
You're good. And then he climbs up, he grabs the things, goes up on the ladder, and just slides down, hitting his chin on like four of the rungs as he falls on the ground. And he's like, Be careful, sir. If you rush, that's when accidents happen."
Yeah.
Marty is extra, but he does have some points with the food complaints.
Yeah. And they had to establish him as a jerk early on. Otherwise, this scene is just mean,
Yeah. Well,
and the retaliation becomes unwarranted.
yeah,
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It still wasn't a great scene for me, but
still funny.
it was all right. Well, it wasn't my favorite slapstick.
That's fair.
But yeah,
Uh,
continuing.
yeah, continuing on. Sonar's picking up all kinds of stuff. He's like, "Captain, come here. We got three destroyers and a frigate up on the surface. They're all actively pinging." And so Dodge calls all hands on deck. Everybody comes running. Stepanek knocks down Marty, and everybody just kind of tramples over him.
Yeah, he's got no friends.
No, he doesn't. Well, he thinks they're all jerks. So
Very openly thinks that.
he, yes, he does. He is not shy about hiding his feelings towards anybody.
No,
But all hands on deck. Everybody's getting to the stations. Um, and Stepeki,
it's,
that's not his name.
no, but that
Stepanek.
was cute.
Stepanki. No,
Stepeki.
Stepanek, is leaning up leaning on, Sonar's console, and he's like, "Hey, is there any way I can cause a problem here?" And so I was like, "No, no, we're pretty well covered in that department." And he's like, "Dang it." So everybody's, they're kind of running, not silent, but they're trying to keep the noise down. And Dodge is like, "Take us to the bottom. We'll confuse their sonar by blending in with the ocean bottom. They can't distinguish us from the surrounding the terrain." Um, and Lake's like, "I've never done that before." He's like, "No, it'll be fine. You can do it." So they go down and they land hard, basically on the bottom,
Yeah,
with a big crash. The Orlando hears it, and they're on edge too because they're like, "Okay, there's something out there." We heard two loud bangs. At this point, the Stingray goes silent, and the Orlando is running silent as well as not to give away their position. But they're slowly moving towards where they heard those bangs, and we get a shot underwater of the Stingray on the bottom, and then the Orlando moving over them.
yeah.
They're like, "Okay," and everybody's being quiet, and their sonar tech's like, "Okay, this is where we heard that last sound." And Knox is like, "Okay, we'll just hang out here for a little bit and see what's going on." Um, and with the ship all running silent, we see we see a sailor
The
at the
ship
little
store.
the ship's store. He's like, "Okay, can I get some gum?" He's like, "Yeah, chew it quietly. We're running silent." Okay, and he takes some change out of his pocket and drops it, and it pings on Sonar's ears. He's like, "Oh gosh, that was loud." He's like,
Someone.
"You're." Yeah. He's gets Dodge's attention. And he's like, "It's the Orlando." He's like, "You sure?" "Yeah, somebody dropped 45 cents."
A quarter and two dimes. Just
Yeah,
like,
this guy's got superhuman hearing.
yeah, he's good.
But so everybody's being quiet. They're like, "Okay," and we cut to Buckman who's eating, and then he gets this concerned look on his face, and then he passes gas,
Yes. Which.
which the Orlando's like, "I heard an explosion."
Right, but the man never farted before or after.
No, he didn't. But it was true.
So it was
Just
just
an unfortunate incident.
yeah. And
Um,
they're in a submarine, so there is
oh yeah,
no
yeah. They're in a submarine, and
There's
the
no
the wave of it starts hitting everybody, and you can see these guys are rubbing their eyes. Dodge is trying not to breathe. He's like he lets out a breath because he's holding breath, and then he breathes in, but he breathes in through his nose. Like, oh shoot, covers his face, and Stepanik just moves past everybody, goes to his bunk, and shoves his head under a pillow, just doing what they can.
yeah,
But Dodge at this point has an idea. He goes over to Sonar and he's miming to him because they're at this point they don't want to make any noise. And he's trying to convey. He's like speak. He's gesturing, noises coming out of his mouth, or and opening his hands. And Sonar's not getting. He sticks his finger in his nose for a second. He's like, "No, no," and Nitro comes over to start helping, and they all kind of mimicking fighting or just dancing, and it
that part was great.
but he gets the point across that he wants Sonar to make the whale noises. So,
Yes.
so Sonar gets up, he puts his little headset down, and in Harlan Williams fashion, he just lets loose and starts making whale noises around the sub. And the Orlando hears this, like, sounds like whales. And they're moving because he's moving around the sub making these noises. It's like, it sounds like there's two of them now. And
Yep.
he's continuing to make the whale noises. And Captain Knox like, "Ugh, another false alarm. Let's get out of here." So they turn off their running silent. They kick up the engines and they take off.
Yep. But I want to know because he's
Yes.
making these whale noises and everyone's standing there.
Yeah.
How many times and how long did that take to go? Because if you're familiar with Harlan Williams and Harlan Williams' work, not only is he great at making sounds and things like that, but
Yeah.
the faces that he makes whilst doing that are hysterical. It's not just the sounds, it's the whole package that
Yes.
comes with it. And he invades people's personal space making these noises multiple times and nobody breaks. I was looking to see if people were even starting to break and I didn't notice any. So like I'd love to know how long that took to get.
Yeah. I that would be hard. But Dodge at this point, Dodge tells Marty to get things going, get us to gives him some coordinates, and Marty's like, that's out of the containment zone and the engagement area. It's like, yeah, well, I'm in charge, do what I say. Let's go. Marty's not happy, but he does it. And uh Dodge meets up with Stepanik. And he's like, "Hey, that was your chance to mess things up. What's going on?" He's like, "Hey, I'm just here to mess up things for myself and not everybody else. That would be really jerky of me, basically."
Yeah. He's not trying to take everybody down, he's trying to just take himself down.
Right. Yeah. And then Dodge goes to check on Lake, and he goes to her quarters, which is at the very end of the boat, and kind of a little steam. A bunch of the pipes converge in there. She's got a hammock set up. She got her own space, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, "Permission to enter." She doesn't say anything, so he comes in. He's like, "I didn't give you permission." It's like, "Well, I'm a captain, and I gotta see if you're doing okay."
Right. Yeah, she's seems pretty rattled by the how not well landing on the ocean floor went.
Yeah, so she's like, "Hey, I don't think I can do this. You're doing some risky maneuvers." I was like, "Hey, you're doing good. Anybody would have crashed. That was my fault as just as much as it was your fault. I mean, there's no way to know what the ocean floor looks like." And she asks him how he got over the Murmansk brush up when he mentioned at the beginning where he accidentally brushed up against an enemy sub. He's like, "Well, I got really drunk and woke up with a tattoo and a hangover, and I don't recommend the tattoo." But he cheered her up a little bit, and he's getting ready to leave. He opens the door, and all the guys are had their faces pressed up against the door, listening. At this point, Marty's requesting a word in private, and Dodge like, "Sure." He's not happy. He thinks Dodge has hijacked the boat. They're not listening to the rules of engagement. They're leaving the playing field, and he thinks that he should relinquish command to himself. He's well within his rights to do this because Dodge is out of control, basically. Um, Dodge's like, "Okay, come here." He gets the intercom, and he hands it to Marty and says, "Make your case." And so Marty gets on the intercom and says, "All right, man, we are not following the rules of this war game anymore. The captain has hijacked this vessel. We are not in communication with HQ anymore. I think that you should all back me and make me the new commander, and we will deal with Dodge. Put him in the brig until we get back." And Dodge, no one says anything. Dodge takes the intercom and lets and says, "Hey, nobody has ever been court-martialed for following orders from their superior officer. If anybody does feel that Marty is correct and wants to join him, there will be no repercussions or retaliation whatsoever." And it's silent. It's awkward.
It's real awkward.
Marty's like,
Because Marty thinks that everyone loves him,
"Yeah." He's like, "These men love me."
which I don't know where that delusion came from. It's never he never expresses that he thinks he's respected on board. So it's
Yeah.
just it's that it's not really set up well.
Um, at this point, though, Dodge is like, "Well, looks like you're guilty of an attempted mutiny." And he calls to panic to the control room. We cut to the top of the submarine, the deck, and the whole crew's dressed up as pirates.
Yes.
And they're singing "Blow the Man Down."
As you should.
Yes, as you should. And Buckman's like, "Is that a chicken on your shoulder to Nitro?" He's got a raw chicken tied to his shoulder. He's like, "No, no, it's my parrot." He's like, "Well, don't let it get away. That's dinner."
Which gross.
Yes, but as we've established, he's not the best cook.
No.
But they sing their verses of "Blow the Man Down," and Dodge is like, "Okay, Captain Blood, bring out the prisoner." And he tells Sonar to play him a dirge, and so he starts playing a funeral march as Stepanek basically marches Marty out from around the corner and down the aisle where everybody's cheering and booing him. And Marty's like, "You all are crazy. You can't make me walk the plank."
Yeah. They are taking that pirate thing very seriously.
They are, and Lake's not there. She kinda comes around the corner to see what's going on, and she looks disapproving.
Yeah.
But, Dodge is like, "Well, this is what happens to mutineers. May God have mercy on your soul. Take him to the plank." So they take him to the plank, and Stepanek leans down and whispers in his ear, "You're mine, maggot." And they push him off the boat, and he lands in a fisherman's net. They've got the fisherman's boat's there, and he lands in the net. The blindfold comes off him a little bit. He's like, "You all are crazy."
Yeah, he's not happy with that.
And we've talked about several nut shots in this podcast.
We have
This
very, very popular in the 90s.
Yes. This one wasn't this was a not a bad one. There wasn't a lot of setup. He just chucked the bag at him, it hit him. He's like, "Oh," and we're done with it.
I'm not actually positive that it was staged. I think he was just that threw his stuff at him and it was a happy accident.
Yeah, could be, but I was watching him like, "Okay, that's an appropriate nut shot." It didn't seem forced or anything. It just happened and we're moving on.
Yeah.
Not like not like the one from Tommy Boy where he's in the weird chair and gets the weight dropped on him.
Oh yeah. It's like could not place it, but yeah, no, it was yep, good old shot to the misters.
Yeah, shot to the mistress. They thank the fisherman and wave goodbye. And he's like, "Everybody back inside. We gotta go back to the containment zone, and we'll move on to the next step part of the mission." And everybody's like, "Yay!" We cut back to Naval Command, and Winslow's like, "They made him walk the plank."
Word travels fast.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and Admiral Graham's like, "He's breaking the rules, he's AWOL with government property, he's he should be court-martialed," and Winslow's like, "But you can't find him."
Yeah, Winslow's enjoying it just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, he is. And Graham's like, "Well, we think he's gonna make the move on Norfolk, finish up these games, and I'll be there to capture him." He's like, "Oh, you're gonna be there?" He's like, "Yes, I'm gonna go on the Orlando, and I'll be there to capture him." Like, okay, because Winslow gave him direct orders just to be a renegade out there and figure out how to
Be a rogue.
be rogue, do his thing. So he's like, well, he's doing what I told him. So we see Dodge at his desk going over some things. I tried to zoom in to see what he was working on. It wasn't a journal; it was like a ledger or something. But Graham gets on a helicopter, and then we cut back to Dodge again. He's at the Periscope, and he's like, "Well, there's about 15 ships up there waiting for us."
Yeah.
Yeah, and Admiral Graham has pulled out all the stops basically. Graham gets to the Orlando. He's talking with Knox, and Knox says, "Welcome aboard, sir." And Graham looks at him like, "What the heck is that supposed to mean?"
Yeah, he's on real tight.
He's- and that's what Dodge's tattoo says. So he thinks it's a shot at him right away.
Oh, right. I didn't even piece that together.
Yeah.
And but one thing we did fail to mention earlier is so um
Graham.
Graham, one of the reasons why he's so irritable and agitated is he does have a promotion on the line here.
Yes. I
He has
thought.
he's a two-star admiral, and he's going to be getting a if he succeeds, he's hoping to be getting a third star and
Yes.
therefore outrank Admiral Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, not outrank, but matches rank basically.
Right, match rank.
Winslow was like, "Yeah. Oh no, I won't outrank you completely then."
Hmm. So that's another reason why he's taking it so seriously.
Yes. Yes. He's got this promotion on the line basically, or he thinks he does.
Victory
But yeah.
wouldn't hurt it.
Right, exactly. He's anticipating I catch Dodge, I and these win these war games, I'll get my promotion.
Yeah.
But yeah, after he's like, what the heck's that supposed to mean about welcome aboard?" Knox looks confused. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm just stressed. Are all the ships out there?" He's like, "Yeah, we've got all the ships in place. The blockades are up." And Graham's like, "Okay, people, let's go. We need to find these guys like yesterday. Come on, come on." And Knox doesn't look too happy about him being on his sub.
Right. He's not happy.
No. And so we cut and Sonar's like, Everything's looking for us. All the boats, all the planes, everything up there is running sonar. They're gunning for us." The Stingray's running as quiet as complete can be, and the Orlando pings them. They aren't sure exactly what they've pinged the Orlando. They're headed that way, and the Stingray just keeps going into like, well, we just got to keep moving at this point. They're close. They're closing in towards the end game here at this point, so they just gotta start making some calls. Dodge asks what the surface looks like. Sonar's like they've got 5 destroyers, 3 frigates, and a commercial ship up there at the moment. And Dodge's like, well, we've completed everything in the mission so far. The last thing is Norfolk right here, and they've got a blockade. And to get past it, we're going to have to do something very bizarre and very risky. If anybody has any reason to think this isn't worth it, let me know now because we're pulling a Hail Mary here. And Jackson's like, well, is it Jackson? No, no. Spots is like, well, I think bizarre and risky has been our go-to move, and it's worked pretty well so far. So let's do that. And Stepanik's like, yeah, let's continue to kick butt.
Yes.
It's like,
They are
all right,
on board.
let's do it. So the plan is for them to come up behind the tanker, the oil tanker, to come up high, right underneath it, between the two propeller blades. If they do that, the sonar will lose them for about 20 to 30 seconds, and it'll just disappear and blend in with the tanker. And he's like, "Lake, get us in there." And she's like, "I can't do that." It's like, "Of course you did. It's on one of the simulations. You did a bunch of times." She's like, "No, that's insane. I don't think I can do that." He's like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." The
Yeah, she was
Orlando. Hmm?
she was clearly shaken up by the last
Right. She's had her confidence shaken.
yes.
But the Orlando's pretty sure it's the Stingray at this point, so they're getting into torpedo range. They're headed towards them as they're headed towards the tanker. And Graham's like, "Oh man, I got you now, Popeye."
Yeah,
This is
that's
this is
super
very
random,
personal.
but yeah.
This is personal for Graham. He wants this
Ye
done.
yeah, he does. He's overly invested in it.
Yes. And I don't know if it's just because he really doesn't like Dodge. He really wants this promotion, a little bit of everything. But yeah. So yeah, Dodge is given the directions and orders to Jackson and Spots as they're trying to maneuver into between these propellers. And Lake is she's disagreeing with him. Like I think you mean you should be doing 3 degrees, not 2 degrees, or a half a degree it we recommended. Well, he's like, "Hey, I'm just making stuff up here. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, jump in here."
Yeah. He's basically trying to bait her into
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah, and then she steps up. Um, she jumps in, starts steering them through the propellers. It's like there's too much turbulence on the right side. We need to head left just a little bit, make this work. And they start threading the needle, and the Orlando sonar guy's like, "Hey, we're losing them. That we're starting. It's getting choppy." And Graham's like, "Don't." Graham gets up. "Don't you tell me that. Don't." He's like, "What do you mean you're losing them?" And then we get a pipe in the engine room bursts. Water starts spraying everywhere. It hits Howard, knocks him down. And the engineers are like, "Hey, we're taking on water. This isn't good." Stepanik's like, "I'll take care of this. I got this." And he takes off. Dodge is like, "Hey, help's on the way. We're gonna still do what we're doing." So they continue their course. Help's on the way to the engine room. Stepanik gets there, and the first thing he does is closes that door and latches it, um, to basically protect the rest of the stub. If they can't get the water stopped, it'll fill up the engine room, and then the rest they could surface, but um, that way it
Right.
won't fill up the whole sub. And the guys are like, "We gotta bail. This is too much." He's like, "No, we are not doing this. I hate these things, but I'm not gonna die in a submarine." And so they start grabbing these really cool fittings where you wrap it around the pipe and it crimps it together and kind of secures the leaks.
Yeah.
So they're doing what they can to mediate that situation. Um, can't read my writing.
Par for the course for us.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. So the Stingray's still moving between the propellers slowly, and they got to make sure they're doing it right. Otherwise, I mean, they get too close to one, those propellers will cut that thing in half.
Yeah, it's very risky.
Yes, very risky. But the leaks are getting fixed, and then we get the main pipe in the engine room bursts, and like it's the main. He's like, we're not doing this. Come on, boys, this is a dress rehearsal for heck." And he grabs one of the big clamps, rushes it, and and is able to crimp it down on the main one. They get it all. They get all the leaks stopped. The Stingray makes it through and is under the tanker now, and the Orlando has lost them. Everybody's cheering on the Stingray. They're excited. They're not dead, and Graham is livid at this point. He's like, "What do you mean you lost them?" He's like, "They just disappeared. They're not on the radar anymore." Dodge is in his office for his quarters at the moment. Lake comes to see him, and he's like, and she's like, "How much longer would you have gone before you started doing it right?" He's like, "About half a heartbeat." You pushed it really close. Um, and in a bizarre turn of events, she's like, "Permission to speak freely?" He's like, Sure." And she jumps up, kisses him, and bangs her elbow or funny bone on the door, kind of giggles and runs away.
Yeah. There's no setup or lead to that.
No, yeah, we might have a contender for the worst romance.
Yeah, we'll discuss that at the end.
But where the crew is just kind of calm me down for a second. They just had the thing. Jackson is like talking to Spots. He's like, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I choked in that game, where he lost all the money." Um, and Spots is like, "Yeah, it happens. You're a good ball player. You're NBA material. You've got this, buddy." And Jackson's like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. You're right. I am NBA material." Spots like, "Are you kidding me? I'm just trying to boost you up. Don't agree with me." Basically.
We get some good bonding going on.
Yeah. So Knox and the Orlando crew, or Knox is like, "Hey, I bet they went back out to sea and are running from us." And Graham's like, "No, no, I know better. He's here. He's somewhere." Which Graham is right there.
Yes, he
Um,
is.
but we get sonar's like, "Hey, the tanker's gonna move. It's not continuing towards the harbor. It's going going a different way." And Dodge is having to make up a plan on the spot. It's like, "Okay, we're ahead of them now. We can make a run for it and get in there." So that's the plan at this point. Is they're gonna have to try to just keep going basically as
Yep.
the tanker turns. They're just gonna keep going straight for it and do what they can. Um, and at this point, the tanker turns. The Stingray comes out. The Orlando pings them, And Graham's like, "Ah, shoot, they're ahead of us. Go, go, go. We gotta catch them fast." And Dodge like, "Okay, surface. We're gonna run on the top. It's cloudy out. Their planes won't catch us right away, so we'll run on the top as fast as we can, basically."
Yep. Good plan.
Yeah. It's like, let's get this going. We're kick into full gear. So Dodge is they're up on the surface. They're running, giving it all they got.
Yep. It's a race.
It's a race. The Orlando at this point is just looking to get close enough to get into a shooting solution where they could where they would be within range to sink it with torpedoes. And Graham gets on the radio to call the Stingray at this point. Nitro grabs a wire with his toe, another wire with his hand, and touches a fuse box, little fuse thing, and that one looks like it hurts, which is why I'm saying it specifically.
Yeah, that does not look
Oh,
fun.
no, time to go. But yeah, Graham's talking to Dodge. He's like, "Hey, we're getting close, and per the rules, you can't ignore this. If we get into the shooting solution, you need to surrender. You agree?" And he's like, These are the rules." And he's like, "Since when do the rules matter to you?" He's like, "Hey, watch it. You're talking to a superior officer." He's like, "No, I'm talking to a higher ranking officer,"
Yes,
which was a good line.
it is.
The
But
crew kind of cheers at that comeback. But yeah, he's like, "Yes, I will surrender if we get into shooting solution. Goodbye." Um, now catch us if you can, basically.
yep.
He calls Howard and says, "Hey, give it all you got. We're going full bore. Just give us all the juice." And Howard's like, "Oh man, I love this. This is what I live for." And he grabs a bottle of whiskey, takes a drink himself, and pours it into the tank. And Stepanik's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "The whiskey cuts the mixture and gives us about 50 more RPMs,"
Every little
which
bit helps.
Yep, every little bit helps. The Orlando is now in range because they got a guidance lock on them, but they're still getting closer to get that full shooting solution. Dodge orders at this point torpedoes be loaded into the launchers,
Mhm.
um, and a couple people look at him like torpedoes. Like, yeah, I got a plan. So we see the torpedoes get loaded. Dodge gets on the periscope and is looking at the dummy boat off in the distance. And he's like, "There's no time for exact measurements. We're going to shoot from the hip." So he gives out some coordinates and says, "Fire one." Gives out a couple more coordinates. Fire two. And we cut back to the Orlando. They have just gotten the shooting solution. And Graham's like, "Call them back. I want to be the one to tell them." And Knox just kind of glares at him.
Yeah,
He is not happy that his command has been taken.
and he
Um,
can't say anything about it.
nope. So, yeah. So Graham calls back, and for the first time, Nitro just kind of he puts this big electrical glove on and leans, kind of squ- covers his face a little bit, and flicks a switch, and it just clicks over.
We could
The
have done
first
that
time,
all along.
yeah. But Graham's on the line. It's like, "Hey, you were in shooting solution range. Um, the war game is over. You're dead." And Dodge is like, "Well, congratulations to the Orlando and the crew for a well fought war games. However, just before you called, we had sent out 2 torpedoes." And Graham's like, "What?"
Yep. And if those
uh,
hit, you lose.
Yes. If those torpedoes hit their targets, that boat over there, you lose. And Graham's like, "What? No. You what?" He's a bit incensed. And he's like, "If you look out your periscope, you can probably see the ship at the moment." And Sonar's like, "We got contact in 10." And Dodge takes over counting 9, 8 as he looks at the periscope. Graham's looking at the periscope, hearing Dodge still counting. And as he gets to 1, the ship, boom, and then the second torpedo hits, and boom, and the Stingray. Everybody starts yelling and cheering. The Stingray has won the, and they're all happy. We see Knox hand over some money to his XO, who believed Dodge could do it, or at least betted for Dodge. Um, but we we get back to the with the game over, they head back to Norfolk to get set up. The whole crew comes out in their best dress. Everybody's in the bright white uniforms except Howard. He's in a Hawaiian shirt with his white cap, the old sea dog.
Yep.
But the crew's coming off the Stingray. We see Graham's helicopter land and him get off, and Winslow pulls up in the car. The guy opens the door for him. He gets out, and Graham runs up to Winslow, and he's like, "This shouldn't count. He was out of the containment area." He's like, "After you changed it without telling me or talking to me about it." He's like, "That's not here or there. He didn't listen to the rules." And I'm like, he listened to what I told him. So, and I think you can kiss that third star goodbye.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Graham's just incensed.
Yeah. That's a big hit for him.
But Winslow heads up to meet the crew. He's like, "Good job, Commander. Unfortunately, I can't give you an LA class nuclear sub to command. But what we're gonna do is give you a brand new Seawolf class nuclear sub with a brand new crew fitting the new sub." And Dodge is like, "I'll have to decline that. I wouldn't be anywhere without the crew I have. If I'm getting a new sub, I want them with me." And Winslow's like, "Well, you're making demands again." And he's like, "No, no, not demands, just a respectful request." He's like, "Well, at least you got my son to stand up straight." And we find out that Stepanek is Winslow's son. It's his mother's name that he's using as not to be basically called out in the military.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, his salute could use a little work," but he salutes his dad and he salutes back and kind of smiles, and he's becoming a team player.
Yep. He's turning the corner.
Yep. So they get the promotion. He's like, "Okay, everybody, good luck. You're on leave for a little bit. Go have fun." And as they're running off, he's like, "Don't have too much fun." And Sonar looks over, is like, "We won't, sir. We'll keep it. We'll keep it good."
He's real far away.
Yeah, he's really far away. But Lake's standing by his side. It's like, "So what's this tattoo I keep hearing about?" And they kind of chuckle and walk off into the sunset. The credits start to roll, and we get a little music video of in the Navy with the village people going through clips and stuff and new shot stuff for this little music video for the movie, which was very fun.
Yep.
And that was down Periscope.
Yes, it was.
The
I'm
the
gonna.
Navy movie that I remember much better than you do, where you remember McHale's Navy way better than me.
Yep.
Okay, on to our final thoughts. You go first, because I was talking a lot.
Okay. So yeah, McHale's Navy was definitely correct, and the movie that I was thinking of when I had mentioned it.
Yeah.
Rachel and I both agree that McHale's Navy is a far superior movie.
Oh, no.
Uh, this movie, um, actually will not be on our watch again list.
Okay,
We watched it once and have zero desire to watch it again.
okay.
And parts of it were enjoyable, I guess.
Yeah,
But other than that, didn't care for it at all.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Sip your coffee.
Hmm. Yeah. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit, yeah. But like I said at the beginning, maybe did I say at the beginning or did we restart it? But there's some movies that I remember the way things get remembered from childhood is like I remember us really enjoy this movie, watching it a lot, and maybe you were just there because I was 12 when we saw it, maybe 13.
Yeah. So I knew of the movie and I remember that we did watch it. I didn't
Okay,
remember as much of it as I thought, but I also remember enjoying it a lot as a kid.
okay,
But I think it's one of those ones where the enjoyment of it is just going to stay in childhood
yeah,
because as an adult, it was not it was not a good movie. And
okay,
I was quite disappointed
okay.
because it didn't the memory of liking it didn't hold up. And that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that could I can see that being a bummer. Um, I had fond memories of this movie growing up. One that we watched quite a bit, um, and I had a blast watching it again. I'm not sure if that's the nostalgia train that I've jumped on. It's like, yeah, I'm remembering the stuff again. But I truly enjoyed this movie more than McHale's Navy. I thought this was the better movie. Um, it definitely had a bigger budget than McHale's Navy.
No, it didn't.
You sure?
McHale's Navy had a $42 million budget, and this had a $30 million budget.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I felt this one looked better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh, but yeah, no, I had a blast with it. I liked it. I mean, definitely, it's a '90s movie. Some things didn't age well, um, which you're gonna get with a lot of '90s and probably some '80s comedies.
Yeah.
Things just not aging well because how things were back then. And but overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. I would be curious to see if mom and dad watch it and what they think.
Yeah, actually, I'd be curious to see. Maybe we'll do a poll on this one. Are you team McHale's Navy or team down Periscope?
I mean, the only real connection is that they're Navy movies with similar covers.
Sure. However, you think
No, no,
down
I agree.
Periscope is a better movie,
I do think
and
Bound Periscope is a better movie, and you think
uh,
McHale's Navy was a better movie.
not just a better movie, a far better movie.
Yeah, that's weird. Uh,
We will watch McHale's Navy again. I'm glad I own it. It was fun and cute.
I will watch Down Periscope again. I'm glad I own it. I've got the VHS right here.
Yeah.
Um,
No, me,
I
Rachel,
will not watch McHale's Navy again.
and like Rachel and I, we both looked at each other and we're like, because I bought it on Amazon because it was only like 50 cents more to buy it than it was to rent it. And I'm like,
Right.
I remember liking this movie. It might not be as great, but I'm sure, I'll be glad that I bought it. And I'm like, I, I want those 60 cents back.
I'll give you 60 cents, so that make it better.
No,
No,
but
yeah. I mean, it was fun seeing, Joe Danby in something else. Um,
I I did enjoy Bruce Dern
yeah, Bruce Dern. I was looking at
as
him though, he looks a lot like Joe Biden in this movie.
a little bit.
But he's still alive too,
He
which is
is.
great.
He is. How old is
I wanna say 84, but I think it's higher than that. Born like 32 or something.
he's 88.
Okay, I was close.
And I think he is one of the last surviving cast members from Support Your Local Sheriff.
Yeah?
I think one of his brothers in the movie is still alive.
Okay.
But I digress.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And now I can't pick that movie, thanks.
where were you going to?
No.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's always I mean, part of this too was watching movies that we watched growing up and seeing how we view them now. I mean, a lot of this stuff was things from our childhood, and either we stayed with it, like, oh yeah, I still like this movie, I saw it the other week, or it's something like this, like I haven't seen this in 20 years. It's been a while. Like, do I still like it? Yeah, I do. I do still enjoy it. You don't remember it, so
I
um
did remember it. I just didn't remember it as well as I thought I did.
That's fair. I mean, and I mean, growing up, I remember that we were like, "Yeah, take that, Marty," and still kind of like, "Take that, Marty." He is a jerk, but some of it's a little valid, but he's over the top.
Yeah.
But those are my final thoughts.
And
If
I
any of you, if any of you listening watched both these movies, McHale's Navy or Down Periscope, let us know what you thought. I would be very curious to see what people think of both those movies, and if we're continuing to make good movie choices.
yeah, that's a big question.
As we go down this well of movies that one of us likes, like, are we making good choices? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're still having fun, so
I'm sorry, mom and dad. That happened a few times.
there's been a few sorries. We made up for that with a few of our movies, but we'll
we
we'll
went,
we'll
we went right back to it with McHale's Navy and down Periscope, though.
yeah, we did. Let's see if you make it better, because I think we're going into the what's next portion of this.
We are going into the what's next portion.
Unless you've
Uh,
got some more any fun facts or anything else to say about Down Periscope.
no, I'm ready to move on. Yes, so we are going into the what next, and I do think that I will be redeeming the last two choices because I am going to go into a movie that is very familiar to I want to say both of us, but it's very familiar to me. I know
Okay.
that for sure. And I could probably lead an episode without actually watching the movie. I know it so well.
Okay. Trying to think of what that could be.
Are you going to venture a guess or you want me just to tell you?
It's Space Jam, isn't it?
No, but surprisingly close.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, man. Oh, I'm excited. Surprisingly close to Space Jam?
same theme,
Basketball?
sports.
Oh. You want me to guess more, or am I or will
No,
I rank
but
it?
it's I would have guessed. I mean, it's my favorite sport.
I think I know at this point.
Go ahead.
No, no, I don't wanna, I don't wanna
No. If you could guess it, that would be awesome.
does the movie have the ref in it?
It does.
Okay. And Darth Vader?
Yes, you know it. It is the Sandlot.
Well, you gave me a couple good hints. I mean, it's sports movie, okay, how many sports movies did we watch growing up? And if it wasn't Mighty Ducks.
Well, okay, so you have Space Jam, Sandlot, Rookie of the Year, Angels in the Outfield, Mighty Ducks.
We did watch Rookie of the Year and Angels in the Outfield quite a bit. Good old Tony Danza.
Yeah.
But no, the Sandlot's a great choice. I haven't seen that in ages.
Yeah,
But
I
I
haven't
do
seen
I
it.
do know I do know that one pretty well, from my memories. I think I need a refresher, at least for the order, but I think I know the movie pretty well.
Me too. Yeah, and I mean, of course we're gonna watch it again, and I'm gonna need to watch it again just for notes and continuity and whatnot,
Right, right,
and and because it's fun.
right.
But I
It's like, 'cause
thought,
when did this scene take place versus this scene? You wanna get it in order and everything, but
right, and this is, I think this might actually end up being the next one might actually end up being a little bit longer of an episode, just
okay.
because we're gonna have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I
Yep.
agree.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot to talk about on this one.
Yeah. And
And
so
especially because it's one from our childhood that we both clearly seem to remember.
remember well. I think this is gonna be a whole lot of fun, and we're gonna have a whole lot to talk about, and it's gonna be really a really good episode. I'm looking forward to it
Nice.
a lot.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up Down Periscope episode.
I think so too. I don't have
It,
anything else to comment on.
I don't either. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so. Watch It Bro Podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at Watch It Bro Pod. We're also on the Facebook and the Instagram under the same handle. Our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilord, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.